You became an entrant into the Sky Arts Portrait of the Year award, which obviously I think you came originally as a wild card, and you just, a bit like Boris Becker, appeared out of nowhere and round by round simply took Rugby by storm, and in the end you were in the final. And although you didn't actually win it, nevertheless it gave you a very attractive
Well, I didn't
profile.
get through to the semi-final. My picture didn't get through the heat. But in some ways, that's been better because people were talking about it, and I had a lot of support saying that people thought that the portrait should have gone through, and you never know what the judges are looking for, and I've got so much respect for what they choose, but it just wasn't my day, But arguably, because there was so much response, particularly on social media, it got people talking about it more than if I had gone through. So it did me no harm to be part of the competition, to not get through. Obviously, I had 2 rounds because I did the wildcard bit, and then I went into my heat, but it just didn't progress any further from there. But it was just the most fantastic experience, and to paint in these amazing places, first in the National Portrait Gallery, and then at the Wallace Collection, and it's a wonderful, very intense experience.
Are you a very demanding taskmaster of yourself?
Yes, very, very. I like paintings that challenge the brain and that force the brain to make up a lot of the work. So a lot of my paintings, if people see them, they see a herd of elephants. But actually, if you look really closely, half the ear won't be there. It probably hasn't got 4 legs. But until you point that out to somebody, they haven't really noticed it, and because their brain's done it all for them. And I love playing with that idea that you're giving people just enough information to make the picture, but not too much that it's easy.
I also think perfection can be measured in different ways. And of course, you can have an absolute likeness where, as you say, literally every spot, every feather on a bird is as it would be seen in a museum exhibit. And yet, on the other hand, what you're reflecting in part is almost the psychology of the animal, the way it moves, the way it throws water off its body, whatever it may be, which it's fantastic. So, in terms of obviously your younger life, if you look back to when you were a girl, were there moments you think which actually started this journey for you? Maybe a trip you went, something you saw, or people you were influenced by?
I think I've always been interested in art. My mother taught art and textiles. My father, he's very good at the sort of he's an engineer by trade, and so he has a very good technical ability for drawing. But the reason this style came about was because traditionally I'm very, very, very tight with my painting because I want it to be accurate. Anatomically I want it to be accurate, and in my sculptures, it would annoy me if the anatomy wasn't right. The style came about because I had once again gone too far with the painting, and I got cross with myself, and I took a knife, not to cut the canvas, but to scrape the paint off it in order to be able to step back. And I was cross with it, but then it was a sort of, oh, hang on a minute, actually there could be something in this, because it had done some very interesting things with how the paint had been dragged through. And because I use palette knives, I use very thick paint, and so the whole thing went from there, really. So it was a complete happy accident.
Often accidents are happy. We always think that an accident somehow is a disaster, but just bumping into somebody rather randomly in the street, or just going to a show which was far better than you ever imagined, is actually an example of how things are not always quite as bad as they may seem. Often opportunity or fresh ideas emerge in unexpected ways.